How you doing, brothers and sisters? Glad glad I'm seeing people watching the last video, well, the one before that, about CERN, and I had done another one about multi-dimensional thinking, and you know and I had this little prop I made just to show people, the cross that they use, our enemy. And again, it's hidden in plain sight. It's showing how, that we've been dumbed down through chemicals, through education, indoctrination, and mostly spiritual. And why they wear this cross, because again, everyone's so trained to look at surface only, play checkers, not chess. But when you think multidimensional, again, they show us exactly who they worship and who they are. They're the hive waiting for the capstone. And a point, I don't know if everyone knows this, some people have a issue when I talk about King James, but like I said, I know with all my heart the Lord has shown me the King James is the true word of God. Even the word version, when you look up version, has multiple definitions. One is a translation, from one language to another. And it's also funny that, the Bible uses that word translation for, the rapture. We get translated into another form, into another language, another frequency. But the other definition for version is someone's version of a story, from their perspective, or my story, it's my story, my version of the story versus your version of the story. And again, when you look at the authors who were behind that, you start seeing some interesting things, keywords, calling their Christ, again, why they can call themselves Christians is because they are Christians. They're waiting for their Christ, their false Messiah. Is when they call Jesus, in the other versions, to change it to capstone. Again, back to the capstone. They're waiting for their leader to sit on top. He's the capstone. Our Christ, the real Christ, our Lord Jesus, is the cornerstone. He's the foundation. He's what holds us all up. He died for us, as opposed to their Christ would have all them die for him. It's about the mentality of mindset of leadership. He would sacrifice any one of them for his agenda, but our Christ would sacrifice himself for any one of us, and he did. So, like I said, that's after that prayer I made, that literally within a couple months, right away I started learning all the conspiracy stuff, and this whole thing is a catch-22. Is that to convince people, and even myself, for me to have believed all this before, that so much was going on, I would have had to think there was a massive conspiracy involved for it to be true. But to think a massive conspiracy, to believe in that sounds crazy, and that causes people to not look at anything. It's too hard to wrap their heads around until you start looking at piece by piece, and then you see the whole puzzle coming together. It's not a bunch of little conspiracies or little plots. They use people and compartmentalize them that way. They're compartmentalized like blocks on the pyramid, each doing their part, like the ants in an anthill. They all do their part to serve and to build socialism, communism. That's what it's all based on, and then the elite at the top are the thinkers and the queen. But that's the catch-22, is to believe this stuff. Again, it has to be a conspiracy, and there is. And then the worst part is the spiritual aspect. That's why, that saying with the devil, his greatest trick was to make the world believe he didn't exist. Because, again, people that think they don't have any beliefs are being controlled by spirits. And that's evident if they would just be honest with themselves and say, when you overreact to something, or, addiction, why don't you just stop? People can't stop. You know, that spirit, those demons. If you look up the definition of demon, there's always a computer definition for all these words as well too, like our matrix. The word matrix means womb. You know, something's being birthed. There are twins being birthed right now. You know, the twins, the twin brides, basically. There's the bride of Jesus, his bride, his pure bride, and then the bride of Satan, the whore. And that leads to another thing that there's been a lot of talk of, the Jade Helm. And again, people just think they know what words mean. We don't know. We've been lied to. We just think we have we know the main meaning, and that's it. That's all they could possibly mean. And that's how we're being deceived in every aspect of this world. You know, we're agreeing to everything either by, you know, presumed consent or acquiescence, which, you know, it's basically you're silent, so it's presumed that you consent. And jade, the word jade, literally, the definitions mean what's it? A harlot, a strumpet, a whore, promiscuous woman. I mean, it flat out says a whore. And then helm is the position of leadership or control. What happens, apparatus which a vessel is steered. You know, the woman that rides the beast. That's what this drill's about. You know, for when the beast has taken, or the whore has taken the helm of the beast. And there's so many other words. Oh, another quick thing about CERN that I meant to include in the other video, but I didn't, was that when you I had heard other people talk about CERN having to do with some of their experiences with frequency and musical keys and, you know, things related to that. And it just hit me. You know, we already realized it's a satanic witch circle, a porthole to you know, to open these gates of hell. But that goes back to the Bible when it's talking about an angel, you know, came with the keys to the bottomless pit. Well, again, the word key, you know, again, we just think of a key as a door lock, you know, and that's kind of fitting. But also botany, it means Samara, which I think has to do with a Middle Eastern place, legend of the Antichrist coming out of a well. And it's funny, that's the name of the girl in that movie The Ring. She comes out of that well, that demon that gets released. A tuning key, which is a pitchfork. Again, Satan with his pitchfork. It's not for baling hay, it is for tuning frequencies, to coming with the key to unlock this dimension, this portal, you know, to let that army in. I don't know if it's going to be a visible army of the locusts, or if it's going to be those spirits, you know, just invading people and taking the people over. You know, also, you know, that's a lot of what their genetics is about too, with clones. Again, that's an empty vessel waiting for a spirit to take it over. Also with their mixing, again, a lot of those hybrids, those Nephilim, which the word in the King James says giants. Again, the word giant does not just mean a large or tall person. A giant in industry, a giant in intellect, a giant in strength, a giant with mental power, magical power. You know what I mean? Like, it's a giant in any field. And that's what all those Nephilim are. That's why we have those superheroes with all these different abilities and powers, and all these shows about these people that are different, and, you know, they're going to lead us and lead this world and this new world order. Well, they're all Nephilim. They're modern day Nephilim, and that ties right into all the people with the UFO abductions and talking about, you know, taking sperm and the eggs and combining them and creating these hybrids. They want hybrids that look just like us. You know, I don't think the giants, physical giants, could actually be here again. You know, the world was vastly changed after the flood, and, you know, like dinosaurs had the size nostrils of horses, and they would literally suffocate today. They couldn't get enough air, and the atmosphere is different. So I believe that they have to, uh, mix and make, and also to blend in. That's what they really want. They don't want us to know who is who. These things walking among us that can take over and part of the hive. And I think also with the transhumanism, they're mixing they're mixing technology in, and it's crazy. This one phrase always in my head, it won't go away, and it's cyborg, demonic cyborg clones. And again, you know, the cloning issue, it's an empty vessel. Cyborg, you're mixing the technology and thinking, that will improve the vessel of the man or woman. But they view it as a pitcher that's half empty as man, and they think they can just fill it up with everything. They don't realize that it's a full glass already, and when you pour things in, the water overflows. You lose. It's always in this world a give and take, a gain and loss. The two columns, credit and debit. So they're going to lose qualities of being a man. They're going to become beasts when they mix these things. And just like it says, the feet were mixed of iron and miry clay, but they fell apart, they broke apart, they wouldn't adhere to each other. And because it's going against God, this mixture it's just not meant to be. If God created the system, He's the creator, and these people want to fight about how everything is made up. They're fighting against the grain. Things can work temporarily, but they're trying to achieve something that's not achievable. I mean, it will be temporarily, but not how they view it. And again, these people who think they're part of the plan, the best analogy I ever thought of was, if you saw the first Batman, I think it was the Batman movie with the Joker in it, with that actor that had passed away. I'm drawing a blank to his name. But basically, he has all his henchmen robbing the bank, and after each henchman completes his part, another henchman kills him. He's a useful idiot for that moment. And it's the same way all up the chain. That's all these people. You don't realize you're just being used. You're given things temporarily that you think are helping you, and you think you're winning, but they don't need you. You're not needed. You're needed for a short time, and then that's it. What else did I want to get into? So basically, going back to CERN, that it was the key that they're looking for. The key is the frequency to the bottomless pit. I thought I had something else on that. Again, it just goes back to the frequencies and the keys and the pitchfork. The devil can appear as an angel of light, and when you know how our eyes work, it's basically controlling the ability of the image that our brains are processing. We don't just see something and it's there. I mean, there's other spectrums of light that we can't see. Those things are there as well, but we can't see them because we're obviously not meant to. Other words were like the word orgy. Everyone just thinks it's when people get together and have sex. That's just an orgy. No, it's that, but it also comes from Dionysus, Bacchus worship, Demeter, Saturnalian worship, secret religious rites, drinking, dancing, sex, songs, drugs, rave. It's actually the word rave is in there. And what do they have promoted these kind of raves and these clubs, and that's the mindset. I mean, when you're doing that type of thing, you are participating in a ritual, whether you know it or not. And it's the same thing with the people that believe in evolution. I understand we're taught that as fact, but people have lost the critical thinking skills. I mean, ancient Greece and things like that had things called the trivium and quadrivium, and it was teaching critical thinking, to ask those questions before you just repeat something like a parrot or a tape recorder. And what that does is, people don't even know what they believe. I believe evolution, and Ken Hovind goes into this great. It's the word game again there with the definitions. They include microevolution, that's what they believe, and that happens, but it's not evolution, it's just adaptation. All that information's already present in the DNA between the two parents. So the DNA has a lot to pick from. And there will vary according to, what pieces go into the offspring. But no new information outside of the parents is ever, what's already there is going to be added. It's not going to add a wing to a dog. It's not going to add, anything else. If a cow or a sheep have extra legs, that information to produce a leg is already there. So it's just making an extra one. It's not going to grow a wing. It's not going to grow, gills. It can't do it, and they skip over everything. They say if anyone that wasn't posing as some type of authority would say these things to people, they would laugh at them if they weren't already indoctrinated to it. We all came from rocks that got rained on, and that turned into everything. I mean, that's insane. And then where did everything come from? A big explosion of nothing produced everything. And then even when you look at the definition of evolution, some of the definitions are a military training exercise, movement executed by troops in formation, a math definition of it, extraction of a root from a quantity, a motion incomplete in itself, but combining with coordinated motions to produce a single action as in a machine. And that's what these people are working like, each individual parts of a machine. Gradual progressive change and development as in social and economic. That we are having that kind of evolution. Darwin natural selection. Again, natural selection doesn't change anything. It's just saying whatever's better adapted for the environment, or whatever's suitable for the environment, is going to go on. That's common sense. It's like the quality control portion of a company. But it's never going to change the product. Ken Hovind gave the example of, you could be the quality control division of a car company, and you're inspecting every car, but, if you did that for 10 years, would it change it then to a plane by picking out all the defects? No, it's not going to make that kind of change. That information's not present in the information. Another definition of it, any process of formation or growth developed, a process in which something passes by degrees to a different stage, move, or turn. And again, even with the orgy, everything is a ritual to bring you further along in stages or degrees. And it's all works-based faith. And that's what the devil wants. He wants everyone to be judged on their works, because we're all guilty. We've all sinned. We've all broken the law. And then, people, anything to not believe, they come up with these things they don't spend 30 seconds thinking about. Why is there suffering in the world? It's a fallen world. Adam and Eve chose this. And again, people are, why is there death in the world? Well, obviously, the Bible's telling you death is not the end. The body dies. You don't die. The soul doesn't die. It goes on. This is like a placement test in this world. And other things like, why does God allow this to happen? Or why was the flood? Why would he kill those people? Those weren't people. That's the problem. The Bible clearly says the world was infested with these hybrids. And the whole reason that there was a flood was to keep the DNA of man alive, so that Jesus could be born and come and offer salvation. That was the whole point of the devil. One of the main points of those Nephilim, those giants, the hybrids, was to make it impossible for Jesus to be born. He was trying to kill off the opportunity for us to have salvation. The same way that, when they killed all the infants, trying to kill Jesus when he was a child. They killed all those babies just in hopes of trying to kill him as well. Oh, and also with the Canaanites. Why did they wipe out all the Canaanites? Again, they weren't man. They were hybrids who are all part of Satan's. They're just psychopaths. They're just wired to do this. They have one mission, to build this one world system. That's it. To do their sacrifices, to hurt us, to deceive us, to make the color of law. And that's another thing that they came up with the word human. The Bible never says human. Hue. What's hue mean? Color. Human. Color of man. Human being. What's another one? Again, the legal person, not people, not man, not woman. All their ordinances, statutes, regulations, codes goes back to person or persons. Never people, never man, never woman. It's again naming something. God let Adam name the animals. He had dominion over the animals. And man, just like God has dominion over man, he created man. Man created government, man created officers, man created all these offices, so they have no authority over man. So what did they do? They created a legal person, so they have authority over the legal person. And once you say, or don't say, or link yourself to that name that they created, you're creating the joinder, so they have authority over you. You've given them authority. It's all by you. You're doing it yourself. Another thing I thought about too was how the giants maybe survived the flood. What I was shown was, with the Catholic Church, and the word Catholic means liberal, wide, broad, accepting. So it's basically universal religion. So it's basically, that's the one world religion. That's what Catholic literally means. That they wear that Dagon fish miter, and I think that's how the Nephilim survived. I think that because the worldwide flood, what would survive in a flood? Obviously creatures that lived in the sea would survive. So that's how I believe they survived. And then again, that genetics went on from there. And it's also funny when it talks about Ham and the nakedness of, he saw the nakedness of his father. People had different things, but when you just type that phrase in a King James word search, it tells you the nakedness of his father. It was saying that Ham had sex with his mother, with Noah's wife. So again, back to genetics. If there was a recessive trait and Ham sinned and committed the incest, sleeping with his mother, and they both had this, that recessive trait, could have got passed on. Also, a mixture of, like how Nimrod, he became a mighty hunter before the Lord, a mighty man, and all that stuff referring to the giants. Something happened to him genetically. And it's funny, all these words most of them seem to have some mathematical and some computer definitions as well. And back to demon, a demon in a computer is something that's strictly designed to do one task and one task only, and that's what demons are in this world. They have one strong suit, and that's what they do, an ailment or an addiction or, whatever they were suited for, whatever their strong suit was, because they were basically just offspring of the fallen angels, and the angels all had specialties. That's what they got, different specialties based on what their father, the fallen angels, had. And it's funny, all these movies, again, with the legal person, like Eyes Wide Shut, and these superheroes, they all emphasize the masks, or like Shakespeare's quote, "The whole world's a stage where actors upon it." Masks, especially in Eyes Wide Shut, I think what Kubrick was showing was that the mask, again, persona, the mask an actor wears on stage, the legal person. And this information, I'm telling you, you learn this, and you listen to Carl Lentz with the common law. All they're having is administrative hearings. It has nothing to do with you. You aren't that legal person. Just by using the word "you" creates the joinder. And we don't think that way. We're thinking honorably, logically, right and wrong. But there is just a word game. The whole legal system, the whole color of law system, color of man, human, Uh, the Federal Reserve notes, the IOU notes, its color of money. It it's it's designed for their agenda. It's designed so anything can be the way they want it. It's just a show of it making it look like it's official and fair and just, when really it's designed for them to win. And we're doing it to ourselves. Any time we want to become a man or a woman again and hold our own court, we can. A judge can sit up there wearing multiple hats. Two courts can be going at the same time in the same room. You know, and then lawyers don't have any standing in common law. You know, they have to come in to that part of the case as a man. What else? Oh, and then the Tower of Babel I had been looking into before, and this was pretty wild. I saw that tower. There was a lot of definitions. Again, computer, a tower, the computer tower, computer components arranged in a vertical stack. What else? Specific purpose, designed for a specific purpose, or like a control tower, designed for observation, defense, or communication. So the Tower of Babel, and it even lists obelisk, citadel. It says transcend and ascend. So to communicate, I think, you know, that's what it was for some kind of connection to those, either the fallen angels at that time, or to the ones that were chained up, but that's what that Tower of Babel, I believe, was. It was like a communication, or a way for those spirits to enter the vessels, the fit extensions. Another creepy definition is the word beef. And I don't know if people had seen about Pepsi, you know, how they had got caught using, and this is mainstream, people can look this up, Pepsi got caught using, or acknowledged using, aborted fetal tissue for, you know, creating their flavor. And that's not insane. And they're using aborted fetuses to heat places for all kinds of, I mean, that's insane. But the word beef literally can mean human flesh. And like that old movie Soylent Green, I believe they are putting human flesh in the food they're feeding people. They want us to be like them. They're trying to make us like them. They're changing our atmosphere, changing our water. I mean, changing everything, the food. And the funny thing is, again, with the word game, there was a company that was, I believe the exact name was 100% USDA grade A beef or something, 100% grade A beef, and people assumed because that was on the package that's what it was. But literally that was just the name of the corporation, like the Federal Reserve, Federal Express. It's just a word with multiple meanings, and people don't know that. You're beef, you're thinking automatically of, you know, of an animal flesh, and I think that's what they're making us more like them. They're indoctrinating us with their music, their education, you know, their movies, and we're bombarded with this stuff. And with CERN, it was making me think of where they're at, you know, where these beings are. It reminded me of even like the Superman movie too, where Zod and his followers were in the Phantom Zone, and stuff like that in the movies. You can look up those words: phantom, disembodied beings that can become visible or audio, a chimera, spook, fictitious, wraith, ghost, spirit, flying saucer, UFO, bogeyman, shadow, visitant, haunt. And then zone, a belt or a girdle, jurisdiction, portion of a sphere between two parallel planes. I mean, there's just so much when you start looking up these words. And again, the mark of the beast, I honestly believe that whatever it is, if it's the chip or something else, you know, the Cain was cursed with a mark, and he went to the land of Nod. This mark does something to the man. It makes them not a human anymore, or not a man anymore. makes them like a human, or like a vampire does. You know, when they bite you, you're infected with their blood. You change. There's always so much stuff. It's oh, another funny thing. ATE 8 was that literally means the goddess of criminal rashness and consequent punishment. She makes men blind so they will blunder into guilty acts. 8, like eight of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I mean, who would think the word 8 meant that? And for other people who haven't seen my first video, the Word of God, semicolon, hidden in plain sight, if that had words like tree, the word tree, a figure that branches from a single genealogical root. A tree is one directly from God that doesn't have a grandfather or so on. They're directly from God, a direct creation from God. Or the word angel, a literal definition of angel, if you go to the free online dictionary, is a financial backer of a political campaign or a dramatic production. Order, like order out of chaos, it's written right on Freemason books like Morals and Dogma. Order, one of the 9 sex or choirs of angels. Chaos, the abyss. So they're telling you who they worship. You know, the angels of the order of angels of the abyss. That's who they worship. That, you know, Apollyon, their king. That's the Antichrist. And again, you got to remember, it's always going to come as wide and broad. It's always going to come as good cop, bad cop. You know, and what does Jesus say? You know, the straight and narrow path. Don't be deceived by the left or the right. You know, straight and narrow. Follow the word. I think that's it for now. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, employee. What's a ploy? A trick. They're tricking you to work for them. Employee, employer. I don't know if I said these in the other videos. I lose track. But mortgage literally means, it's a French word, death pledge. Mort, like mortuary. Loan. The lane cows are milked. The lane where cows are milked. They're milking us with these loans. What are they loaning us? It's fractional reserve money. They're not even loan. It's created out of nothing. Our signature is what creates it. Trying to think what else. There was something else. You know, Satan thinks we only love, worship God because, you know, he gives us things, and he's partially right. In our corrupted flesh, we are selfish. We do want something from God, even if it's just to be with him. Even when trying to tempt Jesus, Satan offers him the worship and kingdoms of the world. And, you know, our flesh, it just can't help it. We're always fighting it. You know, whatever happened when we're put into these vessels, it's just a constant war, you know, fighting against this world. And the compartmentalization that they're doing is literally like hell's hierarchy, their government. It's everyone has a piece, and that's it. And if you try to go outside of your specified area, you know, then they just try to act like you don't know anything. You know, it's like if you don't have that piece of paper saying you're an expert in something, and you go against their agenda, that's it. I mean, like they look to Darwin like he's some kind of, you know, genius. He wasn't even a scientist. You know, he was a theologian. So if he had talked about creation, they would hate Darwin. He would be an idiot. He would be, you know, he would be trash to them. But because he says something that gives them, you know, they believe a logical reason not to believe in creation, then he's a hero. You know, and his whole book was saying, you know, the whole title was talking about, you know, the superiority and the species and of the races, and he, you know, that was the whole ideology of people like Hitler, and they believed that some races were superior. And that's the big joke, is there's only 2 races on this planet. There's man and the human, the color of man, the human beings. That word drives me crazy, human. Where did it come from? And like I said, this stuff is just, people are, and whether obviously some people know some of this, a lot don't. But even in like all the it's in everything, every single thing. The movie Rounders, the bad guy, or the one that's always in trouble, he's called Worm. We learned in the other video, Worm, one of its literal meanings is dragon. And his best friend Michael, you know, the Worm, the dragon, and Michael. And Worm's talking about a part where he says he has to have 3 games going at all times: one with the guards, one with the brothers, and one with the white guys. And he's got to, lose so much to the guards so they can, he can get away with the things he needs to get away with. He's, got to gain stuff off the brothers, who would be his, fallen angel brothers. And then, what was it? Something else with the white, but it just reminded me of like Satan's situation, the games he has going, even against his own brethren, the other fallen angels. They legitimately, I believe, wanted to mate with women and have children, and Satan all along knew it was going to happen. He knew, but he didn't care, because he knew that they would still be with him, and also that when those children of theirs, those giants, the Nephilim, the hybrids, died, they would be here as demons, so they would be part of his army. And it's funny, you see the 1/3 and the 2/3 scenario throughout the whole Bible. Like even in the beginning with Adam's children, there was Cain, who I personally believe was, a son of the devil, literally. But Cain, and then there was Abel and Seth. Well, 2/3 were good, 1/3 went astray. You see that with you see that again with Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. You see something happened with Ham. The 1/3 went astray, and the 666 is the 2/3, and then 1/3 of the angels fall with Satan. And I think that's linked to the 3rd dimension we're in. Suppose Earth is the 3rd planet from the sun. And time, there's past, present, future. Space, you have length, width, height. Matter, you have liquid, solid, gas. And it's funny, the first line of the Bible is a trinity of trinities. In the beginning, that's time, past, present, future. God, who's doing it, created the heaven, which is space, so that's length, width, height, and the earth. And that's matter, solid, liquid, gas. So I think we covered a lot of stuff. Trying to remember if there was anything else. Again, I think also that something to do with the twins, the Gemini twins, the Hopi, all these legends, all this mythology, the twins, even Apollyon, who's Apollo, had Artemis, the twin, Pollux and Castor, thought of as possibly the Gemini twins. Like that movie Face Off, that's where the names of the twin villains, Pollux and Castor, Romulus and Remus, all through mythology, they talk about these twins, and I think that's the good cop, bad cop scenario. But I guess that's it for now. Just some of the stuff I wanted to get out. Again, if you get an opportunity, tune into Carl Lentz. And there's some other great scientists, PhDs, if that stuff matters to you too, that became Christians because of the evidence. Same with me. I didn't think it was possible. I was persuaded by the massive amount of evidence. I mean, if you go in, solely looking for the truth without, leaning either way, the massive amount of evidence for creation and the Bible. I mean, just the fact that, 1/3 of the book, again, 1/3 is prophecy, specific prophecy. They laughed at one time when, Eve came from a rib. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, he married his rib. Well, of course, later on science and what we know catches up to the Bible, and we realize through genetics that's possible, to make a person through that DNA, to make the woman. And not only is it possible, but the rib happens to be a great spot to take DNA from, and if it's taken out properly, it will regrow. That rib will actually regrow. Same thing, laughing at people. How could everyone be seen at one time, or how could the whole world see the two witnesses? Well, through technology that can happen. Uh, Controlled buying and selling with the mark, we see that that's already being done with the chip. I mean, these were concepts that were way beyond people at that time. That it sounded insane to them. So if people would stop bashing the Bible that don't believe and just spend a little time trying to look into it and see what it's actually saying, instead of just taking things out of context, just trying to disprove it. I mean, it is frightening to find out there is a God. I was terrified when I started realizing it was true, and the Bible was true. I was terrified. I was like, this just means I'm in trouble. I lived my life wrong. I certainly never thought as I started changing, and literally a new spirit comes into you, you start seeing things very differently. You don't feel the same way about the things in this world. Material things, start to mean less and less, and you just see like that people are brainwashed. And like I said, it's that spirit. I don't know if like this magic's going on. Again, they take your blood at birth, so who knows if they're doing something, some kind of rituals and curses on us with that, and or claiming us somehow. But people are in a daze. If you don't talk about the weather or sports or something on TV, they look at you like you have 8 heads. They don't. It's like just robots going through the motions. That was another funny definition. Not robot. It was what the Jewish people said they could create a. What's the word? They could create a. It was like Frankenstein when they would, form something and put a spirit into it. They would create. Oh, it's escaping me right now. But anyway, if you know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. But it literally means a robot or an android. I can't think of the word. I didn't have it written down. I have it written down somewhere else. But I guess that's it. I'm sure I'll think of the word. When I think of it, I'll include it in the link part. But there's just so much. Like I said, you start looking at sounds and you start listening to sounds, and you realize letters aren't. The letter isn't the sound. It's a hieroglyphic. It represents the letter. And same thing. This body isn't us. It's just a representation of us in this world. And I've even heard a lot of Muslims have problems with understanding Jesus being God, but to be infinitely just and infinitely loving, that's a hard situation. He has to be just because angels and other entities, other heavenly hosts, have been judged and put into prisons for disobeying and for sinning. So how would God be considered just if he didn't do the same to us? So the difference is they have seen him. There is no doubt. They've been with him. I believe that's the difference. We haven't seen him. We have to believe on faith. And people think the same thing with that. Faith. They think faith is just believing without reason or evidence. And it's the exact opposite. It's believing because of the evidence. If you look that up, you have faith because there's so much evidence. And again, it's very hard to prove anything in this world other than probably math. I mean, one example would be, even if someone said they saw you kill somebody, you could, the word games that can be played in court. Oh, you saw me. You know it was me. You took a DNA test. You ran the test. You had sole custody, the chain of evidence the whole time. No one else touched it. You know it was me. I admitted to you at that moment it wasn't me. There's no possible way I have a twin, or my life history. There's not a doppelganger out there or someone that looked like me. You're willing to state 100% it was me. And if you're wrong, if it's found out that you're wrong at some point, you're willing to do the life sentence that you're trying to impose upon me. I mean, anything can be argued in this world. Everything it's the world of good and evil. It's the world of the dual nature of this world. Everything can be argued for or against. And it's the truth that we search. And I think, a lot of the educated people see that everything can be argued for and against, so they don't think there is a truth. You know, they say there's no absolute truth. Well, is that absolutely true? Is that an absolute? Like, there's a in that whole worldview, it's a contradiction. They can't maintain that worldview. It falls apart. You know, God had created an order, and it's funny. This is in everything. If you saw this, like something stupid, like the Lego movie, it's showing that the Son had mixed all the worlds that the Father had separated, and the Father was angry. But in the end, he saw, oh, it is good to mix it. It is okay. No, it was separation for order. It was not meant to be mixed. I mean, I guess if God wanted to create a mixed world, he could have, but these worlds were not designed to be mixed, so it cannot work. It will destroy everything. Again, you put some cyanide in a big, tank of water. Is it still water, or did it become poison, the whole thing? One bad apple does spoil the bunch. It rots everything. And I think I've babbled enough. Again, if you get a chance, I've made quite a few other videos. If you're understanding or I'm making any kind of sense to you. And the first one I thought was great because it had so many basic words that really helped me understand more of what God was trying to communicate in His Word. The more you search it out, the more He's going to show you. And I just thank everyone for all your comments and for sharing. I appreciate it because it's not from me. Like I said, I'm a different creation. I've been totally changed by all this, and it's like the only way you can say thank you to God, and you just don't want people to suffer. Like, you don't want this horror to come upon people. And if everyone just woke up, they would just see that we don't have to live in this system. We allow it to happen. They make us feel weak, and we have to go along with it, and there's no choice. But we're doing it to ourselves. We're financing it. We're working. We're obeying. We don't have to do it. We can have our own, and we don't want to interfere with them because that is terrorism. But we can have our own. If they interfere with us, that would be terrorism as well. Terrorism is just interfering with, the system of government. Well, we have the right to govern ourselves. Even Obama admitted that not too long ago. We have the greatest gift our fathers gave us was the right to self-governance. We have the right to govern ourselves, and govern means control. Government, govern, control, ment of the mind. It's literally mind control. It's all controlling your mind and what you believe. Same thing what Jesus all said through all the whole Bible. If you had enough faith, enough belief, because of the proof, you could do anything He did and more. But I guess that's it. And God bless everyone. I hope this helps. And I love the comments. And if you want to share anything, I try to get back to everyone. Because I do the same thing. I listen to other people, and I read, open up my mind and try to take in as much as I can, and as long as it matches up with Scripture, it's golden. And like I said, I know some people don't agree on the King James, but again, I wasn't pushed that. I wasn't brought up with that. I have no reason to say that other than these words show me that every word was put in a specific place for a purpose by God. And you can follow the chain of the Bible. If you were just doing it like evidence, you can follow all the way back that this is a direct translation. They had I forget how many scholars they had that knew all these languages that designed it to be perfect. And these people, whether we understand it or not, they are following rules. They do believe they have an honor system, and that's why they show us things. It's fair. We're choosing them because we don't know the other. Just pray to God. Ask Him to show you the truth. Ask Him to show if He's real. I promise, if you say a sincere prayer and ask, He will show you. And you may not see it until, months later, you start finding out things and start putting it all together. Like me, like I said, it was a catch-22. I had to find out there actually was a conspiracy first, and then see what those people were all about. And all these people that control everything and name everything and, print the money, all tell us that only the material world exists, but yet all they do is have pagan gods and goddesses. They name everything after them. Everything. That's all they do. And they're controlling everything. Satan is the lowercase g god of this world. Jesus beat him. The court case is over. And now the Lord's coming back for the eviction part of the case. He's evicting him and having him escorted off to prison. I think there was one other thing about no, I guess that's enough. Again, God bless. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you watching, and this definitely helps me too. Having a little problem. I'm still trying to think of that word with robot android. They created a. It's driving me crazy. I'll think of it. Like I said, I'll put it in the comment section or the links. Thanks a lot again. Bye.